Alright, run. Alright, what's up y'all? So today I'm going to go ahead and be showing you guys and kind of coaching you guys through my warm-up and mobility section. What's up, dude? So it's going to be a longer video today, just because my mobility routine usually takes 15 to 30 minutes just by me doing it. But since I'm walking y'all through it and kind of coaching you on the way, it's going to be a little longer. But I will go ahead and break up in sections, in 4 sections. I'm going to go ahead and post those separately, so if you just want to do them as they come up, you're welcome to. So the 4 sections today. First section is going to go ahead and be my standing section. It's probably going to be the longest portion. The way I do is I like to start from the feet up. I stop about my hips, and then I start from my torso, and then I meet in the middle with some core and back work. So that'll be a video, and then second portion is going to go ahead and be my foam rolling section. That section isn't actually mandatory for what you guys want to do if you're just warming up. However, it is something I do every day, and it does make a pretty big difference. Again, that'll be a separate video. Third section is then going to be my sitting down or on the ground portion of stretching and mobility. That should be the shortest of them all. And then finally, I'm going to include my 4th section, which isn't something I do daily. It's not part of my actual warm-up, but it's kind of some additional workouts and mobility routines you can do for, say, like shoulder injuries, neck, back pain, sciatica, stuff like that. So if I have something like recurring shoulder pain, or if I know I'm going to be benching heavy one day, it's something I'll do. So it's just stuff you can substitute in and use if you want or if you don't. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and break that up into 4 sections. Before we get started, I get a few disclaimers today. Obviously, I don't have my degree in this yet. It will be coming. But all the information I have got from some very credible sources. So really what I'm trying to do is just kind of make a streamlined, easy, one simple stop for you guys to be able to just watch the video and kind of follow along. So maybe you guys can actually warm up properly. You know who you are if you don't warm up before the gym. So that being said, I've got some recommended equipment here, but just know you don't have to, don't feel like you have to pay for anything or buy any of this equipment. I know equipment can be expensive, and I'll give you kind of some alternatives with that. But the things I recommend getting a resistance band or a set of them. There's kind of 2 options. You can get something called a closed loop, which is obviously it's like a circular band, or you can get an open loop, which is just a straight band, which is what I have behind me. I personally recommend straight loops, or straight bands, sorry, because if you have to tie it off, you can. That being said, I hope you can tie your shoes. Second piece of equipment I recommend is going to go ahead and be a foam roller. So I've got a few options behind me. If I could recommend anything, it would be a foam roller. But, so you've got stuff like this, which is a solid foam roll. It's pretty light, it's pretty soft. You've got a pretty aggressive, so it's going to be plastic on the inside, but it's got some pretty aggressive knots, if you will. Don't really recommend those. This is my personal one here. Plastic inside, and it's got a soft foam outside. Personally, those are my favorite, just because they're stiff, they still have a foam covering. So seriously, can't recommend those enough. Third piece of equipment today is going to be a lacrosse ball, a baseball, something round and hard. I recommend getting 2. So you can throw them in a pair of socks, you can work your back and your calves and stuff. Pretty much any small ball with some sort of density is going to work. For my Canadians, sorry, no, a hockey puck will not cut it. But if you don't have that stuff, you can absolutely use stuff like a rock, dare I say. I've used like a Gatorade bottle, the edge of a Gatorade bottle. If you don't have a foam roller, if you guys have like a hydro flask or a water bottle, I've used one of those before. And then if you don't have a band, you can use a straight bar. If you want to go take a walk and touch some grass, you can absolutely use a stick. And you guys will kind of understand what I'm getting at later. So those are my 3 pieces of recommended equipment. I know I said 4, but counting's hard. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here. Then we'll come back and we'll start with my standing portion. Okay, so I hope they cut the video, because if not, I was totally just staring at you. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started with my standing portion today. But before we get started, I've got 3 main things I'm going to be showing you today. Kind of movements that you'll hear me reference later on. They're going to be super important. 1, for today's stretching mobility portion, but 2, just in general. So those 3 things I'm going to cover are going to go ahead and be, you're going to hear me reference either a hip tilt, or hips forward, or a pelvic tilt. So that's going to be number 1. Number 2 is going to go ahead and be bracing. That's bracing your core. That's going to be super important for things like really lifting at all. If you're ever squatting or deadlifting or picking something up, you'll probably hear somebody say, lift with your legs, not your back. The only time I wouldn't tell somebody to do that is if I don't like them, I tell them to lift with my neck. But other than that, no, bracing is pretty important, so that's going to be the second portion today. And then the third portion that I'm going to be teaching you is called the hip hinge. Now, hip hinge is essential, right? Because you don't want to bend at your back. You don't want to usually, like, you don't want to, like, I'll show you. You'll get it when I understand. Or, you'll get it when I show you. So that being said, I'll go ahead and show you those things real quick. So I'm going to stand here. I'm going to have my hips forward. And when I say pelvic thrust or pelvic tilt, or hips forward, what I reference is you'll see a lot of people arch their back when they squat, when they pick something up. And the problem is it puts a lot of what's called shearing load on your spine. So what you're going to want to do is you want to tilt your hips forward, right? So what that's going to do is that's now going to allow the weight to move almost in a straight line up your body and actually use your spine, so you're not putting a lot of said stress on your lumbar and sacral spine. So when I say hips forward or pelvic thrust, what you're going to do is you're going to physically, with your quads and your groin and your core, you're going to pull your hips forward, right? And now they're kind of in line and straight. So that's going to be number one. Number two is going to be bracing. And the reason I've got it in this order is it'll make sense in a second. It's all related, right? Everything's related. So number two is going to go ahead and be your bracing. So typically when you see somebody brace, you either see them take a big breath with their chest, which is wrong, or you'll see somebody like let out all their air and they'll squeeze their core and they'll, okay? That's a form of bracing. It's not the correct bracing for what we want to do. So we're going to employ something called diaphragmatic breathing. So if you don't know anatomy, you've got your lungs here, obviously, and then you've got a muscle called the diaphragm here. It's just shaped here. It's right under your rib cage. What that muscle does is it pulls, right? And it helps your lungs expand, so on and so forth. So diaphragmatic breathing is a way that you can almost inflate your stomach. And what you're doing is you're increasing, it's called intra-abdominal pressure. Essentially what that's doing is it's kind of like building up PSI in a machine or in a hose or something. You're going to build up that intra-abdominal pressure, and now what you're going to do is you're going to help your spine take some of that, like bear whatever load you're doing. So if you're lifting something, your core is going to be actively engaged, and now your core, your back, and your spine are going to be helping in unison this time to pick something up. So if you're picking something up, you're squatting, anytime you do any movement, like an overhead press, whatever it is, you're going to engage your core and you're going to brace. So that being said, you're going to use that diaphragmatic breathing, and the way I'm going to show you is when you inhale, you're not going to inhale with your chest. You're going to inhale and you're going to try and suck in the air through your stomach. So what I do is, if you can watch, I'm going to kind of see my stomach expand. Now a few key things here is you don't want to try and expand your stomach forward. I know it sounds crazy, but you want to try and expand your stomach to the side. So the way I kind of tell people to cue this in is you're going to take your thumbs, you can put them kind of on the small of your back, right around here, okay? And you're going to put your fingers right here on your stomach, and you're going to let out all your air. And when you inhale, you're going to try and drive your fingers out to the side. So go ahead and watch. See that? See how my fingers come out to the side? So I'll show you one more time. So now that you've done that, your core is tight, your back is tight, you've increased your intra-abdominal pressure, and now everything's kind of locked in place. So now, my third piece that I'm going to show you before we get started today is going to go ahead and be our hip hinge. Now the hip hinge is super important because you ever pick anything up, you don't want to round your back, you want to have a nice solid frame. So what you'll typically see a lot of people do is they don't hip hinge properly. They'll come back to a certain point and then they'll round their back, or they'll kind of squat with like bad form, you know. So the way I tell people to cue it up is first, right, you're going to push your hips forward. That's the first one, I just showed you that. Secondly, you're going to brace your core, okay? And now what you're going to imagine is you're going to imagine you have a plate here on your butt and you're going to try and push it back. Okay, you're going to want you want it straight back. Okay, you want your hips in line, and if you're struggling, I guess, to do that, I've got a foam roll here, and I'm going to show you what to do. So you're going to go ahead and place this foam roll on your legs, and place your hands like so. If you can't see from the front, it looks like this. Okay, so you're going to push your hips forward. Obviously, you're going to brace your core, and now what you're going to do is you're going to roll this foam roller down your legs. Okay. One more time. Roll the the foam roller down your legs. And what you're doing is you're learning how to hip hinge. And hip hinge is, again, it's pushing your hips back, keeping a big chest and a nice flat back, okay? And the reason I show you those 3 things is obviously when we stretch today and we warm up, they're going to be pretty essential. And again, if you're ever lifting something, this is what they mean when they say lift with your legs and not your back. So now that we've got those 3 things covered, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video one more time, and I promise you we're actually going to go ahead and start my routine here. So I'll go ahead and cut the video.